Maybe if we have time a little bit after, we can do introductions, go around with introductions, but we're kind of a little short on time tonight. So my name is Lisa Lee. I've been volunteering with NYC Mesh since September of 2016. So I'm going to go through real quick. I've been working a lot on outreaches. We're going to go over our neighborhood outreach to date, and we'll share with you guys what we've accomplished so far and how you guys can help us, because we absolutely need help. So Chinatown, I've taken on that area. So our Supernode is mounted on 375 Pearl Street, on the roof of 375 Pearl Street. We are working with the Wong Family Benevolent Association at 24 Bowery. A lot of the buildings, like a clear line of sight to the rooftop. So the success from working in Chinatown has been through introductions. I know the executive director of the Chinatown Business Industrial Improvement District, Chinatown BID, and he is interested in putting Wi-Fi in a couple of the parks and a few buildings. So we're working with him on that. And then just at a holiday party, I met somebody who was part of the Wong family, and he said, look, this building hasn't had Wi-Fi. They've had the building since, I don't know, the 30s or something. They own the whole building. It's 4 floors, and they're looking into getting internet, but it's an older community. It's more of a senior center. And the guy I met was like, this is a brilliant idea. Why don't you come in and speak with us about it? So we're working with them on that, but a lot of these have been introductions so far. We've done cold calls. We've done cold outreaches as well. You do get, some people who respond back, but it's a little bit harder. Bed-Stuy, Charlie has been working in Bed-Stuy. We have neighbors in Bed-Stuy who are sharing internet and part of the network there, and a cafe and other local business owners. Again, Charlie lives in that area. It's been mostly just like partnering with somebody that he knows there. We have East Village. Brian has worked on East Village DBA Bar, where we meet. And again, neighbors. East Williamsburg, we have Seva. Do you want to add anything to what he's doing? I don't know too much about that one.
He has a boat out there that you can see in the photo. So, and he's setting up a community center in there, and he knows a lot of people in the neighborhood, and including all of those red dots on the map. And yeah, we're trying to connect up that whole neighborhood.
So how can you be part of this outreach? What to say, because it's very important to be accurate. The people that I've worked with at Chinatown, they don't know a whole lot about broadband internet. They're not really adopters. They didn't need internet up to today, right? When they realized we need to get more young people into our community center, or else it's all going to go away. So how do you describe this to them? We're not exactly free, but we don't have monthly fee. That's true. But what we suggest you share is that this is a low cost alternative to your regular internet service providers. There is a monthly membership donation, very optional. $20 a month is the suggested donation. And people are very receptive to that. So not everybody can have internet, right? Not everyone can have internet access from their building. So with the right equipment, they can. And with the right line of sight, they can as well. And then no contract, which isn't completely true. There is a license agreement, which is very basic. It's on our website. If you go to nycmesh.com/join, you can look through the agreement, and it's basically just to, you guys understand, right? But there isn't like some conversations they'll ask, am I committed to this for a year? And they're not. So we want to clarify that. To your techie friends who understand internet, broadband, everything, nycmesh.net/join. Everything's on there. They can request a node. And then the bottom line is really, if they still don't quite understand, and if they don't know if their building can see the Supernode, set up a meeting. Brian and I, or Brian or myself or somebody on the team will be happy to make that visit, just as long as there's roof access. Otherwise, it's not a very productive meeting. A quick guide to explaining who we are. We're a community of developers, technologists, what we're doing, and these slides will be available if you want to look at it afterwards. And then how do we do this? We survive by grants. We are the winner of Beyond the Net, donations, and ISOC NY is our fiscal sponsor, and Brian will talk more about that. And why are we doing it? And really it's helping our community narrow the digital divide, especially in areas where broadband internet adoption is really, really low. So quick bullet points for you to share. We have brochures, postcards, handouts. It's all available on nycmesh.net/leaflet. So if you ever need to send something off to a church, a one-pager, we have something catered to churches. We have a sample site survey and outreach letter with a lot of answers to our frequently asked questions that are also really easy to look at. We're working on other flyers and other materials, but if you have any ideas, we'd be happy to, yes.
If you've got a balcony or a window with a view, then, rooftop, yeah. Well, then fill out our join form. And have you done that on the website? Yeah. Yep.
Test.
Okay, yeah. With this small antenna with line of sight, you can get up to 2 miles. And you'll need something more expensive to go further than that.
So I might be 3 miles from east.
Yeah, but if you fill out the join form, then we can see if there's anyone in your area and try and get you connected that way.
Let's see. So marketing materials are available online if you want to share those. And I think that is it. Any questions on outreach and getting your church involved or your local church?
Got a grant about 2 months ago, and things have been a bit crazy since we got the grant. So I thought I'd like to step back and focus on why we're doing the project and what our structure is and what our central aim is. When I was getting involved in the project, I did a lot of research on community networks in this country, and I found that nearly all of them had failed. It was kind of depressing, and the successful ones were very small. Most of them failed because it's difficult to organize, which we're finding out, no clear aim, and limiting to one technology instead of being pragmatic about it, political differences, and being utopian. I love utopian ideas, but it's hard to make them work. So I thought that we needed just one simple aim and a pragmatic attitude to how to get. Oh, the aim's disappeared. There it is. Build a community-owned network. I try to make it seem exciting there. And if we stick to this one aim, then a lot of good things come out of it. You know, resiliency and internet access for all, and all we have to do is concentrate on this one aim, and a lot of good things will come from it. Well, I lost a bit of my motivation thing here. Okay. A thing I found, like, if you fill in the join form, I'll send you an email, and then I'll find out a bit about why you're involved and what you want. But everyone that's involved has a different motivation, and it's a mistake to assume that other people have a similar motivation to you. A lot of tech people, it's just a fun tech project, and that's great. But, and for other people, for everyone, they hate Time Warner. So we all agree on that. But other people have different reasons for getting involved, and that's fine. And we're all working on the same thing, and that's good. But yeah, just don't assume people have the same motivation as you. I'm thinking for future meetups, because we're all different people, that we should separate them out a bit. So we always talk about this. We should have like a tech hacker meetup, and this is tonight's the general presentations and some more agenda stuff. And we have DBA Bar, which has been going for a long time. The meetups there, and we need several ones for the finance committee, organization structure, and grant obligations. Yeah, as part of my research, I found Guifi. Most of you here probably know about this now, and this is an extremely successful network in Spain, and Ramon Roca is the person behind this. And I spent a couple of hours on the phone talking to him. He's a very friendly guy, and he's giving me advice on how to structure this and what will make it successful. And this is the book that he uses to structure his community. There's a thing about the phrase "tragedy of the commons," and people just assume that if you share resources that it will fail, and it's not true. There's a lot of successful organizations that share resources, and things like Swiss grazing pastures, Japanese forests, irrigation systems, and these have been going for 100 to 1,000 years. Some of these things, and people successfully sharing resources. These are the 7 principles she found in the successful ones, and these are things that we should gradually get into our organization. I won't go into all of them. We definitely need conflict resolution mechanisms. We found that recently, and clearly defined boundaries. Things that we're going to have to add into the organization as we go along. And out of this comes our network commons license. This is to ensure that people that are using our resources will also help to expand it and won't harm it. The 4th point is the one I think is the most important. By joining the free network, you agree to extend the network to others under the same conditions. So if we install a router on your rooftop, you should agree to let someone else connect to that, or even let someone else put another router on your rooftop to extend the network out further. It's kind of unrelated, but it's another model of a huge organization that works. And it's based on this simple idea of network of trust. Find people you can trust and be trustworthy yourself. I think it's a good model for us. For a long time, we were just meeting in a bar, and I would go to serious meetings, and I'd be introduced. Oh, this is Brian. He's with this bunch of people that meet in an East Village bar. Yeah, well, it didn't sound so serious, and so what we did was get a fiscal sponsor, and now we're a project of the New York chapter of the Internet Society, which is much more serious sounding. Having a fiscal sponsor, you're not really a legal entity. What you are is a project of the sponsor. So yeah, and they're the ones that pay the bills and manage the money. So and they're also a 501c3, so we're a non-profit via them. You basically donate to ISOC New York, and you get your tax deductible donation. Yeah, I signed a contract on August 3rd last year. That was for a year, so we've got a 1-year contract with them. And at the end of the contract, we decide whether to continue it or whether we should become an independent nonprofit. It takes a long time to be a nonprofit, so we should start looking into this now. Yeah, it's been great with the fiscal sponsorship. We got a donation from the international ISOC, kind of through this, for 20,000 and maybe another 10,000. And there's other things like there's a lot of people here that were at the Hope Conference that we actually met them there. They're now important members of NYC Mesh. We have a very similar mission to ISOC, so they're very supportive. So yeah, post-grant. So it was a bit touch and go there for a while. We had some big bills coming in with the Supernode, and the grant came in, and we've got the Supernode paid for the next year, and also the hardware that goes on the Supernode. So that's been a huge relief, and there's a lot of expansion plans going on. But also, you know, as soon as money gets involved, there's been arguments, and we have a chat group Slack which you might have used to have been on, but it's pretty much empty now. People kind of disappeared as soon as there was political and legal stuff going on in all the channels there. So priorities. I keep updating these priorities on the website. So you can check back every couple of weeks and it'll change a little bit. But the basic priority is to expand our network, and it can get subdivided into more and more priorities. But there's a lot of gray dots on there which we got to turn red somehow. So we got to figure that out. And as Lisa's presentation is emphasizing, that's as soon as you fill in the join form, you'll become a gray dot on the map, and then we look for possible connections. And yeah, really the only way we've got this to work is through the neighborhood system, where there's one person in the neighborhood who knows local businesses and neighbors, connects to their rooftop. Oh, and that's my presentation. I think we have next.
Okay, so my name is Zach, and I've been playing with MYMesh for a few months now. Really, my background is in the technical fields, especially networking and servers and data centers and that kind of stuff. So the reason I'm helping here is I'm trying to help the Supernode get into position. And so I'm going to give you a little status update about where we are and why we might want to do this and so on. So first, we should probably just talk about what a mesh looks like in general, and that might tell us why we want to have a Supernode and what it'll do for us. Generally, Brian mentioned earlier Guifi, and that they're one of the most successful meshes out there. Just this one little section of Spain has over 9,000 active nodes, and it's fairly dense. You can see there's a lot of neighborhoods where there's dense structure. Then there's some spots that have a tall building or a tall mountain, and many 5 or 10 or 30 nodes connect to that one spot. And one of the reasons for this is, there's mountains and hills and buildings in the way, and so on. And in this kind of setting, home internet is often shared, but Guifi has quite a bit of commercial internet as well. So what about us? If you look at the maps we just talked about, this is kind of us right now. And there's, as Brian mentioned, a lot of gray dots, which are the inactive nodes that are potentially potential spots. But we have different problems in New York than they have in Spain, and we have some of our own fun challenges that are more technical rather than the legal or other political issues. Mainly in New York, we have apartments, not houses, so we don't always have a rooftop. We're not on rolling hills throughout a countryside or something like this. People move every year or two, so a lot of inactive nodes occur, right? Yeah. Buildings can't see each other because there's various size buildings over different years, and you might not be able to see 2 buildings down, but you can see the Empire State Building, something weird. And we end up with little clusters of meshes. We talked about earlier, about 4 or 5 different neighborhoods that each have their own little mesh. They're sharing internet, and they're all part of the NYC Mesh project, but they may not be able to see each other very much. So we still rely on Time Warner or our favorite telephone company. So we have problems like this where our buildings are, I guess these were supposed to be in order, sort of. Our buildings, we can't really see each other, and then there's tall buildings in the way. For example, here's a node I was trying to connect to. Clearly, there's about 6 buildings in the way between myself and this other person. So that's not very cool. So what can we do about this? Well, and small meshes. I forgot to change the slide as we were going. Small meshes, here's the East Village. And it's fairly dense, just a little block right there, but they probably can't see the neighborhood just adjacent to them. So how can we solve some of these problems? Well, we can think about something like a Supernode. Basically, it comes down to, let's get a tall building with lots of internet. That'll help us fix the problem of lots of buildings being able to see each other or not. It'll fix the problem of trying to remove us from Time Warner and sharing really small amounts of internet with lots of people. The traffic goes up, and so we can all watch Netflix at the same time. And it'll be, with our number 1 and 2 goals on that previous presentation about get users on the Supernode and install tall buildings. This really pushes us towards those goals, which is get more people on the Supernode. It's like a regular mesh, but people can just stand up and directly join the mesh. You don't have to look for your neighbors. You can hopefully decrease the amount of time it takes for people to get on the mesh. They can just aim an antenna that direction and get on. At least that's the idea. So increase node count, decrease time to join, and be able to see your neighbors more easily, or at least something else if you can't see your neighbors. So, we talked about kind of Internet Common and Time Warner and all these other, or Spectrum now, excuse me, and these other companies that are selling us internet. Well, they're really kind of down here in the bottom quadrant. We have Verizon and Time Warner, Verizon Fios, not commercial Verizon. And they're really access ISPs, which are buying internet from another company, who are buying internet from another company, and so on. And what we're doing with the Supernode, kind of the one goal is tall building. Well, we have that. Second goal is get lots of internet. So if we make ourselves kind of right here in the right-hand corner, if we connect to some internet exchanges and we connect to some regional ISPs that are cheap or free, we can kind of skip the bottom. And the bottom is where it becomes really expensive. They end up selling you, $30 or $50 a month, something which costs them $2 or $3 that's shared anyway. So we're just going to bypass that whole shared infrastructure and make our own shared infrastructure. Instead of sharing on top of sharing on top of sharing, we're halving every time we share, or we're reducing every time you share. So we're going to jump over here and energize some large portion of our organization here. This was from a previous presentation, but I just stuck things on top of it. Exactly, and I credited them. So, yay. So this is kind of where we're going with a Supernode. We have this kind of multiple goals simultaneously trying to be achieved here. So where are we with that? Well, my emoticons changed here. Oh well, our space and servers are in place. That's done. We have fiber optics to the internet exchange. It's done. Wires to the rooftop. We acquired an autonomous system number, so we are equivalent to other ISPs according to the internet. So we look like a real internet company. We're about to set it up. It's kind of in progress right now. We have some of our antennas up and running and pointed towards stuff. We have actually mostly towards the East Village. We have one or two different antennas pointing back at it, so it's getting there. And we're about to connect to a regional ISP. So there's progress. It's not something that's, it's not on day one, the Supernode lease is signed and then suddenly with internet, there's a lot of middle stuff that's going on. And, I did a couple of these latter things and some of the other ones were done earlier. So just again, this is like a status update to show you the progress we're making with the funds that have been doled out and spent and so on. So in the October-November timeframe is when the Supernode started. It kind of had this structure. It was just a couple servers and a small switch and a little bit of fiber. And later in December, we grew it by adding more servers and kind of fleshing out. You see there's actual, numbers on here and purposes. And we're moving towards this kind of structure on the far right side where you see we have some ISPs, we have some internet exchanges, we have this multiple routers thing. And this way we can actually push traffic to nodes that are out in Manhattan and in Brooklyn and areas like that successfully, and kind of you can use it, right? It makes it really usable and you can do multiple things with it. For example, we're kind of aiming, with the goal of trying to push or trying to make it so people can just join, increase the node count, decrease the time to solution, right? We're going to allow people to connect to the Supernode in multiple ways, either just a kind of individual user with a laptop pointing towards the Supernode with a big antenna, so laptop plus big antenna. Or you can extend the mesh, you can make your own, you can bring it into your neighborhood, so you could be the first one in your neighborhood. Or you can kind of take the old style and pretend like the mesh or the Supernode is internet provider, so that works too. Or if you want to be a big node or community core, you could sit here and have multiple antennas connected and pointed back towards the Supernode. So ideally this Supernode will help us in many ways. It'll help us extend the system. You can you can just be a laptop user and move towards being a community provider. And you could just get internet, or you could extend the mesh. So we're trying to have multiple goals here with it, and I think it's going to help us achieve one of our primary two objectives from the previous slide. So that's the presentation. Questions or comments or anything? Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. So kind of, I guess beyond this, maybe we have one or two more things like, we definitely need to buy more antennas and point them more directions. We now have some hardware sitting in boxes that we need to put in. And we were waiting for a couple routers and firewall type things, but they're mostly here. So I think in the next, and we do have to wait for a couple of these, setup number. It's in progress. We have to wait for the internet exchange to change something for us, and it takes a couple days. So I think maybe by February, next month, our next meeting, I would expect to have something more usable. Maybe we're not going to be 100% done, but there'll be a lot more progress. I mean, you can see we're making progress fast. October, November, we were kind of stuck for a while. We needed a couple of resources we couldn't get. And here, at this point, it was on. It just wasn't very useful. And here, as we move towards this stuff on the right side, most of that exists right now. We just need to plug some of it in. So we're getting towards a point where we can actually, we can kind of hit Google right now, but not much else. And that's based on the fact that we're not buying internet from commercial providers. We're we're getting whatever's available in the area. So I think every month. Sorry, go ahead. I think so. You know, we're a community project, so there's not like there's no agile project management here, but I think or it's very, very agile. Let's put it that way. But right. But I think, yeah, we're making progress faster and faster now. Now that we have funding, especially, that helped a lot. And you know, we were able to purchase some things which will remove some of the more home components and use more commercial components, so we can just plug things in and it'll work each time. You know, so we're getting towards there.
Do you guys have like a location set up, or have you guys identified locations for like possible secondary supernodes?
That's a good question. I think we have a couple friendly companies that may consider helping us with their rooftops. Nothing good yet. If you have one, let us know.
I met with Josh Breitbart, who leads the City Task Force Broadband Initiative, which was formed after a Pew Research study showed that 1 out of 3 New Yorkers can't afford access to the internet. And that I think is like the ultimate target of at least for me. And they said that we had access to any of the public housing units that we could justify. And me and another member have been working on mapping and figuring out the exact one that would have the most line of sight connections, so we can go to the city because they're really into numbers and have like a quantitative assessment for why we chose this place. And we're like cross-referencing it with census and income data and that kind of stuff. So if you want, I mean, it's going to be in the outer borough, probably East New York or like Belrose, Queens. There's a couple options in the South Bronx, North Staten Island. There's a bunch, and I'm kind of looking, I want to build like a 5-year plan looking at, from initial estimates, we should be able to cover the city with only 16 supernodes, and they should all be able to see each other. So. No. In fact, somebody, one of the members who's been helping me on this filed a FOIA request, and we were denied access to that information. Susan Crawford, who is a tenured professor of, she's suing the city for access to that data. So if that happens, good. Otherwise, I've plugged in with this company called WiredScore that has a database where they basically just called landowners and asked what internet providers they have nearby, and that's been good enough. And it's not a surprise. Like the neighborhoods that lack internet are the same ones that are over policed, are the same ones that lack public education, are the same ones that lack everything else. He's on board. We have no. He said we can do a site survey once I find the right one, but I don't want to commit to the wrong one before it's done.
Well, there's definitely a couple different types of nodes we can have, and we don't have a hard set rule, which is probably a good thing not to have 100% yet. You know, right now the Supernode is kind of aiming at having internet and pushing internet out and being also a core connector between different sites. A Nitro building could be one of those as well. Or it could just be a really big community node that gives access to lots of buildings, or we could call them all supernodes. Who knows? But definitely, you know, in the beginning of this presentation, I very purposefully said Supernode 1 because this is the first one. Well, we will have more, right? We don't know how or when or where, but.
Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of what's on the agenda, but as someone who's kind of brand new to this, are we going to talk about, like, I think there's like over half the people here are this is their first time. Is it first time? So like I'm curious about how to begin plugging into this. Not from a technical point of view, but from like, I want to help see a project like this happen.
There's two things you can do. I'm gonna add you all to the Slack channel, which is our local internal organizing tool. Everyone who said it was their first time, if that's okay, if anyone objects, okay, cool. The second thing is our website is nycmesh.net. And if you go to chat.nycmesh.net, you can check out a bunch of working groups with people from all over the world. We've got Oakland plugged in, Toronto, Pittsburgh, Asheville, Puducherry, India, Freifunk, which is the community that works out of several cities in Berlin. And I'm trying to get in touch with the Guifi IRC channel that they spoke about earlier, but it's in Spanish, so I'm not sure that would help me in particular, but I know there are a lot of Spanish speakers.
Last presentation.
Hey everybody. Hi. So I've been quasi involved with NYC Mesh for, I guess, like a little over a year, actually more than a year. And I guess I'm really interested in like community development and weird art happenings and like creative uses of technology generally. I'm a digital developer and I don't know, weird art person. So so I'd like to just kind of show you one of the things that I used the NYC Mesh for. And so this was a ritual, a participatory performance that occurred at Radical Networks conference back in October. It was called Protective Rituals for Posthumans. So basically, just to like, I don't know, I want to go through this fairly quickly because we're kind of running out of time, but it basically uses the concept of chaos magic, which is a postmodern magical practice useful for connecting with your intention and making your willpower happen in the world. It's belief agnostic, so it can plug into any other kind of like symbolism, any like symbol set that you have, religion, religious practice, or just personal practice like psychology, anything. And Radical Networks is the conference that we created this happening at. And these are sort of like the goals of the Radical Networks conference, which I highly recommend. Everyone in this room would probably like get a lot out of going to this conference. It's fairly small. It happened in Brooklyn, and it was their second year. Yes, thank you for thanks for live streaming all of the work from that. Well, I'll like kind of give everyone an overview of kind of the things that we did. So I don't know, so like the motivation is to kind of like get people involved in networks of various kinds, and my collaborator and I, who happens to be here, sort of decided that this would be kind of a fun, interesting, and engaging way for people to kind of consecrate the space of the NYC Mesh, because it's a community space, and we can kind of think of online spaces in a very analogous way to like physical spaces, and as such, we want to kind of protect it from malicious actors and be involved in growing it. So this ritual, so this is part of our ritual. You can see in the middle of the stage there is a Wi-Fi router that had the NYC Mesh firmware on it, and we hosted an app on it that everyone used. So we had about, I don't know, between like 50 and 60 people who showed up for our ritual. You can't see them, they're like in the audience behind the camera right now, but we kind of got everyone involved in making, like, kind of paying homage to the hardware that we were using, as well as forming a literal network with our bodies and internet cable, and Ethernet cable. And we also ritualistically protected our phones, our small pocket computers that we use daily, using aluminum foil to make a Faraday cage around them and so protect them from malicious actors even further. Yeah, it was very impactful. I'm glad it impacted the desired effect. So kind of as a culmination of a lot of this, we all created a sigil. So a sigil is just is a magical symbol that symbolizes our intent. Our intent for this ritual was the NYC mesh net is safe and strong. And since this was a group ritual, sort of distributed, we had this app that everyone could use on their phone that was hosted on the mesh router called Sigil Pro. And Sigil Pro used the accelerometer data you could like draw the sigil using your device motion, and then cast the sigil into the void. So Sigil Pro is sort of a screenshot. It does accelerometer controlled spellcasting software. It leverages the distributed nature of mesh networks to create a stronger magical force, and engages magicians in using their personal computing devices to manifest intention, because we have them with us all the time, and this is just sort of a way to connect our intention with the tools that we're using every day to make things real. And just some more like technical information. It's essentially a JavaScript app running on a Python simple server on a MacBook that was connected to this router. And the smartphone's client's just connected to the IP, and it uses the Ubiquiti nanostation. And we have it in reverence on the stage here, the cloth gold. So yeah, NYC MeshNet is safe and strong. This was sort of the intention for the ritual, and we just I don't know, we just wanted to have fun with it. We wanted to use this technology in a creative way and get people a bit more engaged in things that are very useful for them and for their community. And I had a great time. We had a great time, but yeah, and it seemed like people, I don't know. Right, yeah. So yeah, I'd like to just thank Radical Networks 2016 for letting us do this bizarre art happening, NYC Mesh for making a wonderful community space online, the Chaos Computer Coven, who we are, and my collaborator, and also our photographer. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, maybe I could take one or two questions, or could just go back to general Mesh questions. Yeah, thanks guys.
I'm a big fan of sigils. I think we're well on our way to having a safe and strong NYC mesh. I think obviously it looks like very recently in the last couple of months, a lot of activities happened here in general. I'm very encouraged at the progress that's being made here. And I think we can really pull something off. I think it's already there in large parts. Absolutely. Well, I think it's a good space. Yeah, you might want to position someone on the 4th floor, like out in the main area, to like direct people up. That would be really ideal.
I just want to say that there was a question online, which I don't know we have time to answer, but I think it's a very general question that people have. And the person saying, what does it mean you can get Google and you hope to get anything else? If I get this, can I get Netflix? And I think there's a need for like a very, maybe it's in your document, your leaflets, which I haven't read, which is a simple fact that people can get at. Do you have that on the site? For the kind of, no, well, that's my point, you know. So, but that for anybody coming to it not really knowing, that's the very first question. How does it work? How will it work for me?
Yeah, the comment about we can only get Google right now and so on was not meant to say that the mesh can't get anything else. We're definitely not blocking. Our goal is you can do anything you want as long as it is within the rights of the network, etc. What that was talking about is on the node, on the mesh, the Supernode, when we're setting it up, we're not buying internet from anyone. We're going to be connecting to other peer networks, other tier 2 networks, internet exchanges, and so on. So right now, as of the current state, we can only get to other open access, open peering sites such as Google, Netflix, Amazon, because they freely give you access to their network. It's for their benefit to do that. So we're partially through that. The AS number we just acquired last week is helping. So on. No. So again, when you say this, the comment about we can only get to Google and so on right now is purely in the context of the status of the Supernode as of today, right? It's not finished, yeah. So that's the status, is we can get to some parts of the internet, not all of it yet. The NYC mesh, if you're on the Supernode, you can see other people who are on the Supernode right now, right? So it's very limited at the moment because it's still in progress.
Also using tunneling software connected to each other, so that if you host a local server and give it a mesh address, for example, you can get to it anywhere in the network. We have a wiki that's not populated yet.
So don't fear, we're not blocking.
Okay, I will also say to the people online that we do have to get out of the room, so I'm going to shut the thing down right now.